The morning sun cast long shadows across the royal gardens of Vorthak Prime, illuminating rows of crystalline flowers that chimed softly in the breeze. Marcus Chen knelt among the luminescent blooms, his weathered hands carefully tending to a patch of Terran roses that somehow thrived in the alien soil. To any observer, he appeared to be exactly what the palace records claimed, a simple human gardener who had caught the eye of Queen Zarathul during a diplomatic mission to Earth 3 years ago. The truth was far more complicated. "The Zephyrian orchids are looking particularly vibrant today," came a melodious voice from behind him. Marcus didn't need to turn around to know that Queen Zarathul approached, her forearms moving with the fluid grace that made the Vorthak such formidable warriors. Her blue-scaled skin caught the morning light like polished sapphires, and her silver eyes held the wisdom of someone who had ruled an empire spanning 12 star systems for over 2 centuries. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, rising slowly and brushing dirt from his simple work clothes. Even after 3 years of marriage, he maintained the careful deference expected of a human consort. The political marriage had been controversial enough without him appearing too familiar in public. Zarathul moved closer, her expression softening as it always did when they were alone. "How many times must I tell you? When we're in the gardens, I'm simply Zara." Her primary hands reached out to touch his face while her secondary arms wrapped around his waist. "This is our sanctuary." Marcus leaned into her touch, genuinely enjoying these quiet moments. The deception he maintained was necessary, but it didn't diminish his growing affection for the alien queen who had shown him kindness when the rest of the galaxy viewed humans as little more than clever pets. The council session went poorly again, Zara continued, her voice carrying the weight of frustration. "Lord Kethvar continues to question our union. He believes I've grown weak, allowing sentiment to cloud my judgment." Marcus had heard whispers throughout the palace. Many of the Vorthak nobility considered his marriage to their queen a sign of her declining mental faculties. How could the ruler of such a mighty empire lower herself to mate with a primitive human? It was a sentiment shared by most of the galactic community. "Perhaps they have a point," Marcus said carefully, playing his role. "I am just a farmer's son from a backwater planet. Sometimes I wonder what you see in me." Zara's silver eyes flashed with something dangerous. "They see weakness where I see potential. They see primitiveness where I see adaptability." Her voice grew fierce. "Humans survived on a death world, Marcus. Your species thrives despite having no natural weapons, no psychic abilities, no advanced technology. That kind of resourcefulness is worth more than all their genetic modifications and technological augmentations combined." If only she knew how right she was, Marcus thought. But his secret was one that could never be shared, not even with the woman he had grown to love. The peaceful moment was interrupted by the rapid approach of Commander Veltar, the Queen's chief military advisor. His massive frame moved with surprising speed across the garden paths, his forearms gesturing emphatically as he approached. "Your Majesty," Veltar said, stopping abruptly and offering a crisp salute. "Forgive the interruption, but we have received urgent communications from the Outer Rim territories." Zara straightened, immediately shifting from loving wife to galactic ruler. "What's the nature of the emergency?" 3 colony ships have gone missing in the Void Nebula sector. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures before all communication was lost. Veltar's voice carried an undertone of concern that Marcus recognized. In his years at the palace, he had learned to read the subtle emotional indicators of various alien species. "Pirates?" Zara asked, though her tone suggested she doubted this explanation. "Unknown, Your Majesty. The energy readings don't match any known technology in our databases. Admiral Fexron is requesting permission to dispatch a full investigation fleet." Marcus watched the exchange while maintaining his facade of simple confusion, but internally his mind was racing. The Void Nebula was strategically positioned along several major trade routes. If something was hunting ships in that region, it could destabilize the entire sector's economy. "Grant the Admiral's request," Zara decided. "But I want hourly updates." "And, Veltar." She paused, her expression growing troubled. "Increase security around all our outer territories. If this isn't pirates, we may be dealing with something far more dangerous." As Veltar departed to carry out her orders, Zara turned back to Marcus. The worry in her eyes was evident, though she tried to hide it behind her royal composure. "Troubled times ahead?" Marcus asked, knowing she needed someone to share her burdens with, even if that someone was supposedly just a simple human gardener. "Perhaps." The galaxy has been too peaceful lately. In my experience, such periods rarely last. She moved closer to him again, seeking comfort in his presence. Sometimes I wonder if the other rulers are right. Perhaps I have grown soft, surrounding myself with beauty instead of focusing solely on military might. Marcus wanted to tell her that her approach was exactly right, that ruling through inspiration rather than fear was what made her empire strong. But such insights would be far beyond what was expected from someone of his supposed background. Instead, he simply took her hands in his. "You've built something worth protecting, Zara. That's not softness, that's wisdom." She smiled at that, though the worry never fully left her eyes. Such simple words, yet they mean more to me than all the strategic advice my generals provide. She leaned forward and kissed him gently. "I should return to the palace. There will be many decisions to make in the coming hours." As she walked away, Marcus returned to his gardening, but his mind was far from the flowers before him. The energy signatures Veltar described sounded familiar in a way that sent chills down his spine. If his suspicions were correct, the missing colony ships were just the beginning. That evening, Marcus made his way through the palace corridors to his private quarters. To any observer, he was simply the queen's human husband returning to his chambers after another day of peaceful gardening. But, once inside his rooms, with the door securely locked and privacy screens activated, Marcus allowed his carefully maintained facade to slip away. He moved to a seemingly ordinary wall panel and pressed his palm against it. Advanced biometric scanners, completely invisible to even the most sophisticated Vorthack technology, read his genetic signature. A hidden compartment opened, revealing equipment that would have shocked anyone who believed humans were a primitive species. The quantum communicator was no larger than his fist, but it could send instantaneous messages across vast galactic distances using principles that most alien civilizations were only beginning to understand. Marcus activated the device and waited as it established a secure connection. "Agent 7 reporting," he said quietly when the connection stabilized. "We've been monitoring the situation in the Vorthack territories," came the reply. The voice belonged to Director Sarah Chen, his sister and the head of humanity's most classified organization. "Are you certain about the energy signatures?" 90% certain. The Devourers haven't been active for over 50,000 years, but those energy patterns match historical records perfectly. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of what this might mean. If they've returned, Zara's empire won't be able to handle them alone. No single galactic power will. We're mobilizing response teams, but our nearest assets are weeks away from your position. You may need to maintain your cover longer than planned. Marcus thought about Zara, about the genuine affection that had grown between them despite the lies upon which their relationship was built. Understood. But, Sarah, if this escalates, if the Devourers are really back, we'll have to reveal ourselves eventually. The galaxy won't survive another Devourer war without human intervention. One crisis at a time, Marcus. For now, continue monitoring the situation. And, Marcus? Sarah's voice softened slightly. I know this assignment has been difficult. Maintaining deep cover while building real relationships, it's not something we ask lightly. After ending the communication, Marcus stood in his hidden alcove for several minutes, staring at equipment that represented technology centuries ahead of what the galaxy believed humans possessed. He thought about the Vorthack nobles who mocked his presence in their queen's life, never suspecting that they shared their palace with a representative of the most advanced and carefully hidden civilization in the galaxy. Humanity had learned hard lessons from their first contact with alien civilizations. When the various galactic powers had discovered Earth, they had expected to find another primitive species to exploit or ignore. Instead, they found humans, a species that had not only survived on one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy but had developed technology through pure innovation rather than genetic enhancement or psychic abilities. The initial reaction had been fear, then hostility. Several alien empires had attempted to either subjugate or destroy humanity, viewing them as a potential threat to the established order. But humans had always been exceptional at adaptation and strategic thinking. Rather than fight an impossible war against vastly superior numbers, humanity had chosen a different path. They had hidden their true capabilities. For over a century, human agents had infiltrated every major galactic civilization. They posed as merchants, diplomats, scientists, and, yes, even simple gardeners who caught the attention of alien royalty. This vast intelligence network allowed humanity to monitor and influence galactic affairs while maintaining the illusion that Earth was a minor, primitive world. Marcus closed the hidden compartment and prepared for bed, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges. As he lay in the darkness, he could hear the subtle sounds of the palace around him, guards making their rounds, the distant hum of atmospheric processors, the gentle chimes of the garden flowers responding to the night breeze. He thought about Zara, sleeping alone in the royal chambers because protocol demanded that human consorts maintain separate quarters. He thought about the missing colony ships and the possibility that an ancient evil had returned to threaten everything the galaxy had built. And he thought about the moment when his carefully maintained deception would finally crumble, when the woman he had grown to love would learn that her humble gardener husband was actually one of the most dangerous individuals in known space. That moment was coming sooner than either of them realized. In the depths of space, far beyond the reach of conventional sensors, something stirred in the void between stars. Ancient engines powered by technologies that predated most current civilizations began their slow awakening. The devourers had indeed returned, and they were hungry after their long slumber. The peaceful gardens of Vorthak Prime continued their gentle chiming in the night wind, unaware that the tranquil days of the Empire were numbered. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would remember why some secrets were worth keeping, and why humanity's greatest strength had always been the enemy's failure to see them coming. Marcus Chen, humble gardener and loving husband, closed his eyes and prepared for the storm that was about to break across the stars. The masquerade that had protected his people for generations was about to face its ultimate test. The emergency council session convened at dawn, filling the great chamber with representatives from across the Vorthak Empire. Marcus stood in his designated position along the wall, appearing to be nothing more than decorative accompaniment to the queen. His presence at such meetings had initially caused controversy, but Zara had insisted that her husband be included in all state affairs, claiming his outsider perspective provided valuable insights. If only they knew how valuable those insights truly were. Queen Zarathal sat upon her crystalline throne, its faceted surface reflecting the holographic displays that surrounded the chamber. Admiral Fexron's weathered face dominated the central projection, his expression grim as he delivered his report from the investigation fleet. "Your Majesty, what we've discovered defies explanation," the Admiral began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "The colony ships weren't destroyed, they were consumed. Our sensors detect no debris, no energy residue, nothing that would indicate conventional weapons were used." "Consumed?" Lord Kethvar interrupted, his forearms gesturing dismissively. "That's impossible. No known technology can completely disintegrate matter on such a scale." Marcus watched the Admiral's expression carefully. Fexron was an old soldier, someone who had seen action in multiple campaigns across the Outer Rim. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable. "With respect, Lord Kethvar, I'm not talking about disintegration," Fexron replied. "I mean consumed. We found evidence of some kind of feeding process. The metal hulls, the organic matter, even the quantum cores, everything was systematically absorbed." A murmur of unease rippled through the assembled nobles. Marcus felt his blood run cold. The devourers had indeed returned, and they were already feeding. "Admiral," Queen Zara said, her voice cutting through the whispers, "show us what you found." The holographic display shifted, revealing sensor readings from the investigation site. Where 3 massive colony ships should have been, there was only empty space. But the energy traces told a different story. Marcus recognized the patterns immediately, they matched classified human records from the last Devourer War 50 millennia ago. "These readings," Zara continued, studying the display intently, "they're unlike anything in our databases. Could this be some new weapon developed by the Krell hegemony or the Zephyrian collective?" "Negative, Your Majesty," Admiral Fexron replied. "We've already ruled out all known galactic powers. This technology is completely alien to anything we've encountered." Marcus struggled to maintain his facade of simple confusion while his mind raced through tactical possibilities. The Devourers had always been patient hunters, preferring to study their prey before launching full-scale attacks. The missing colony ships were likely reconnaissance missions, the ancient entities testing current galactic defenses and technological capabilities. Lord Kethvar stepped forward, his massive frame imposing even among the other Vorthak nobles. "Perhaps it's time to consider that our queen's recent distractions have left us vulnerable to new threats." His gaze flicked meaningfully toward Marcus. When leaders focus on personal pleasure rather than military preparedness, empires fall. The insult was clear, and Marcus saw Zara's silver eyes flash dangerously. But, before she could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. "My lord," Marcus said quietly, stepping forward slightly, "may I ask what you know about survival?" The chamber fell silent. It was highly unusual for the Queen's human consort to speak during official proceedings, and Kethvar's expression showed his outrage at being addressed by someone he considered beneath notice. "I beg your pardon?" Kethvar snarled. Marcus maintained his humble demeanor, but his voice carried a quiet confidence that seemed to fill the space around him. "Forgive me, but you speak of military preparedness as if it's only about weapons and fleets. Where I come from, we learned that survival sometimes means knowing when to appear weak while building strength in secret." Several nobles laughed dismissively, but Marcus noticed that Admiral Thexron was studying him with new interest. The old soldier recognized something in Marcus's tone that others missed. "You dare lecture us about warfare?" Kethvar took a threatening step forward. "Your species barely managed to leave their own solar system before we found them. What could you possibly know about galactic threats?" Marcus looked directly into Kethvar's eyes, and, for just a moment, allowed a glimpse of his true nature to show through. "I know that sometimes the greatest threats come from directions you never expect. And I know that underestimating an enemy or an ally can be a fatal mistake." The subtle challenge in his words caused a stir among the assembled nobles. Queen Zara watched the exchange with fascination, seeing a side of her husband that she had never witnessed before. "Enough," Zara commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. "We have more pressing concerns than political posturing." She turned to Admiral Thexron. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" "We need to establish a defensive perimeter around all Outer Rim territories," Thexron replied. "And we should consider reaching out to neighboring empires. If this threat is as unknown as our data suggests, we may need to set aside traditional rivalries." "Alliance with the Krell?" Lord Kethvar scoffed. "They would see our request for cooperation as weakness and use it to justify territorial expansion." Marcus cleared his throat softly. "Your Majesty, if I may suggest something?" When Zara nodded, he continued, "In farming, when we face an unknown blight, we don't just protect our own fields. We warn neighboring farmers because the threat can spread. Sometimes cooperation isn't about weakness, it's about survival." The simple analogy struck home in ways that military doctrine couldn't. Several nobles exchanged thoughtful glances, and even Kethvar seemed to consider the words. "The human speaks sense," Admiral Thexron said, surprising everyone. "I recommend we send diplomatic envoys to all major powers. If this threat is truly unprecedented, we'll need every ship and every tactical advantage we can gather." Queen Zara studied the holographic displays for several long moments before making her decision. "Admiral, you have my authorization to implement defensive measures and begin diplomatic outreach. Lord Kethvar, I want you to personally oversee the expansion of our intelligence networks. And..." She looked directly at Marcus. "I want you to coordinate with our agricultural and civilian sectors to ensure resource stockpiling in case of extended conflict." The appointment shocked the assembled nobles. Giving strategic responsibilities to a human gardener was unprecedented, but no one dared question the Queen's decision directly. As the council session ended, Marcus remained behind at Zara's request. When they were alone, she approached him with an expression of curiosity mixed with something deeper. "That was unexpected," she said. "I've never seen you speak so boldly in council before. Where did that come from?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "Sometimes circumstances demand that we show different sides of ourselves." "You're facing something unknown, Zara. In times like these, even a simple farmer might have insights worth sharing." "Simple farmer," she repeated, moving closer to study his face. "Sometimes I wonder if you're exactly what you appear to be, Marcus Chen. There are depths to you that I'm only beginning to discover." The comment sent a chill down Marcus's spine. Zara was intelligent, brilliant, actually, and he realized that his carefully maintained facade might be showing cracks under pressure. "We're all more complex than we appear," he said gently. "Even alien queens who rule empires sometimes need someone to remind them of simple truths." She smiled at that, but her eyes remained thoughtful. "Perhaps. But I suspect your simple truths come from experiences far more complicated than tending gardens on Earth." Before Marcus could respond, emergency alarms began sounding throughout the palace. The two of them rushed to the nearest communication terminal, where Admiral Thexron's urgent transmission was already waiting. "Your Majesty," the Admiral's image appeared, strain evident in his voice, "we have a situation. Our sensor networks in the outer rim have detected multiple large signatures emerging from the Void Nebula. Whatever consumed our colony ships, it's moving toward inhabited systems." The holographic display updated to show a tactical overview of the Empire's territory. Red indicators marked the advancing threat, dozens of massive energy signatures moving with purpose toward populated worlds. "How long until they reach the outer colonies?" Zara demanded. "At current speed, approximately 48 hours to the first inhabited system." "Your Majesty, these aren't ships in any conventional sense. Our long-range sensors can barely detect them, and they're massive. Each signature is larger than our largest dreadnought." Marcus stared at the display, his blood running cold. The pattern of movement was unmistakable to anyone familiar with Devourer tactics. They were conducting a systematic feeding sweep, moving from system to consume all available matter and energy before advancing to the next target. "Admiral," Zara said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "implement full military mobilization. Contact all neighboring empires immediately. We're going to need every alliance we can forge." "Already in progress, Your Majesty." "But there's something else. We've received responses from the Krell Hegemony and the Zephyrian Collective. They're experiencing similar disappearances along their borders." The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. This wasn't an isolated attack on the Vortak Empire, it was a galaxy-wide threat. After ending the communication, Zara turned to Marcus with an expression of grim determination. "It appears your advice about cooperation may be more prescient than either of us realized." Marcus nodded, his mind already working through tactical assessments that would have surprised her. "Zara, I need to ask you something, and I need you to trust me completely." "Of course. If the threat is as large as Admiral Thexron suggests, conventional military responses may not be sufficient. Would you be willing to consider unconventional approaches?" She studied his face intently. "What kind of unconventional approaches?" "The kind that might require accepting help from unexpected sources. The kind that might challenge everything you think you know about who your allies really are." For a long moment, Zara said nothing. Then, she reached out and took his hands in hers. "Marcus, I've learned to trust your judgment in many things. If you have ideas about how to face this threat, I want to hear them." "Not here," Marcus said, glancing around the communication center. "Too many listening devices, too many people who might not understand. Can you meet me in the gardens tonight? Away from the palace, away from official monitoring?" "You're being very mysterious, husband." "I know. But, Zara, if I'm right about what we're facing, mystery might be the only thing that saves us all." That evening, as shadows lengthened across Vortak Prime, Marcus made his way to the hidden grove where he and Zara often met for private conversations. But tonight would be different. Tonight, he would have to begin the careful process of revealing truths that could either save the galaxy or destroy everything he had worked to build. As he waited among the softly chiming flowers, Marcus activated his hidden communicator one last time. "Sarah, it's happening faster than we anticipated. I may need to accelerate the timeline." "Understood. How much are you planning to reveal?" "Only what's necessary. But, if the Devourers are truly back in force, we may not be able to maintain the masquerade much longer. Be careful, Marcus. Once that particular door is opened, there's no closing it again." Marcus ended the transmission and waited for the woman who ruled an empire, knowing that the next few hours would determine the fate of civilizations. In the distance, the first stars were appearing in the twilight sky, their light traveling across vast distances to illuminate the gardens of a world that stood on the brink of war. The humble gardener prepared to show his queen that sometimes, the most important secrets are the ones hidden in plain sight. Queen Zarathal arrived at the hidden grove as the twin moons of Vortak Prime cast silver light through the crystalline leaves above. She found Marcus standing beside a fountain whose waters sparkled with bioluminescent organisms, his silhouette outlined against the gentle radiance. Something in his posture was different tonight, straighter, more alert, as if he had set aside a burden he had carried for years. "You look different," she said as she approached, her forearms moving with the fluid grace that had first attracted him. "There's something in your stance, your bearing. It's almost as if I'm not who you think I am?" Marcus turned to face her, and Zara caught her breath. His eyes held a depth of knowledge and experience that seemed impossible for a simple farmer from Earth. Because, my beloved Zara, that would be closer to the truth than either of us has been comfortable acknowledging. The formal tone, the way he carried himself, the subtle command in his voice, all of it spoke to royal training that no human should possess. Zara's silver eyes narrowed as her warrior instincts engaged. "Explain," she commanded, though her voice held curiosity rather than anger. Marcus gestured toward a stone bench beside the fountain. "Please, sit. What I'm about to tell you will challenge everything you believe about my species, about our relationship, and about the threat currently advancing toward your empire." As they settled onto the bench, Marcus reached into what appeared to be an ordinary gardening tool hanging from his belt. But, at his touch, the device transformed, unfolding into a sophisticated communication array that glowed with patterns of light unlike anything in the Vorthack technological database. "That's impossible," Zara breathed. "Human technology isn't capable of such miniaturization or energy efficiency." "Human technology is known to the galaxy isn't," Marcus corrected. "But, the galaxy knows almost nothing about true human capabilities. We've spent over a century ensuring that ignorance." The communication device projected a holographic display showing star charts, technical specifications, and data that made Zara's mind reel. The information was detailed beyond anything she had ever seen, covering not just the Vorthack Empire but every major galactic civilization. "For the past 130 years," Marcus continued, "humanity has maintained the most extensive intelligence network in galactic history. We have agents embedded in every major government, every military organization, every trade consortium. We've watched, we've learned, and we've influenced events to prevent large-scale conflicts that could devastate entire sectors." Zara stared at the data flowing across the holographic display. "This is comprehensive beyond anything we thought possible. You know our defensive capabilities better than our own generals do. We know everyone's capabilities, Zara. We know that the Krell hegemony has been developing planet-killer weapons in their hidden research facilities. We know that the Zephyrian Collective has discovered how to manipulate time on a localized scale. We know that your own empire has technology that could reshape matter at the molecular level." Marcus paused, meeting her eyes. "And we know about threats like the Devourers that most civilizations have forgotten." The name sent a chill through Zara. The Devourers are myth. Ancient stories told to frighten children. They're not myth. Marcus manipulated the display, showing energy signatures and tactical analyses. 50,000 years ago, they nearly consumed all sentient life in this galaxy. They're entities from outside normal spacetime, beings that feed on organized matter and energy. Every advanced civilization was forced to unite against them, and, even then, victory came at enormous cost. How could humans possibly know about events that predate your species' evolution? Marcus was quiet for several heartbeats before answering. "Because we found their records. When humanity first developed faster-than-light travel, we discovered ruins scattered across dead systems. Ancient libraries, research facilities, warning beacons, all left behind by civilizations that tried to prepare their descendants for the Devourer's eventual return." The implications struck Zara like a physical blow. "You've known this entire time. You've been preparing." "We've been preparing, yes. But, not just militarily." Marcus stood and began pacing, his movements revealing the controlled precision of advanced combat training. "We realized that no single species could face the Devourers alone. They adapt too quickly, learn too fast. But, a united galaxy, sharing technology and coordinating strategy. That might have a chance," Zara finished, understanding beginning to dawn in her silver eyes. "Your entire civilization has been working toward galactic unity. The intelligence network, the hidden technology, the carefully placed agents. All of it designed to position us to help when the time came." Marcus returned to sit beside her, taking her hands in his. "Including my marriage to you." The words hung in the air between them like a blade. Zara's expression went through several rapid changes: surprise, hurt, anger, and, finally, something more complex. "Was any of it real?" she asked quietly. "Your affection, your loyalty, the way you looked at me when you thought no one was watching?" Marcus cupped her face in his hands, meeting her gaze directly. "Zara, the assignment was to gain your trust and position myself to influence imperial policy if necessary. The feelings that developed were never part of the plan. What I feel for you is the most genuine thing in my life. But, you deceived me. For 3 years, you've been lying about who you are, what you're capable of. Yes. And I would make the same choice again, because that deception may be the only thing that saves your people, saves all our people. Marcus's voice grew urgent. The Devourers aren't just coming for the Vorthak Empire, Zara. They're coming for everyone. And, without human technology and coordination, this galaxy will be consumed just like it nearly was 50 millennia ago. Zara pulled back, standing and walking to the edge of the grove. Her mind was racing, processing implications and possibilities at tremendous speed. Show me, she said finally. Show me what humans are really capable of. Marcus hesitated. Once I do this, there's no going back. The masquerade ends, not just for me but, potentially for all of humanity. The masquerade is ending anyway, isn't it? If the Devourers are truly returning, you'll have to reveal yourselves to coordinate a defense. Yes. But, we hope to have more time, more preparation. Show me, Zara repeated, turning back to face him. Marcus nodded and activated a sequence on his communication device. High above them, the night sky began to change. What appeared to be stars slowly moved, revealing themselves to be sophisticated cloaked vessels that had been monitoring the planet undetected. There are currently 47 human ships in this system, Marcus said quietly. They've been here since before our wedding, maintaining watch and gathering intelligence. Each one is equipped with technology that your sensors can't detect. As if summoned by his words, one of the ships decloaked directly overhead. It was smaller than a Vorthak cruiser but radiated an energy signature that spoke of immense power held in careful check. The vessel's design was elegant and efficient, incorporating principles that Zara recognized from various alien technologies but combined in ways no one had thought possible. How, she whispered. We learned from everyone, Zara. Every species we encountered taught us something new. Krell energy manipulation, Zephyrian temporal mechanics, Vorthak matter transformation, even technologies from dozens of smaller civilizations. We synthesized it all, improved upon it, and created something entirely new. And you've been hiding this capability for over a century. We had to. When humanity first made contact with galactic civilization, several empires attempted to either conquer or destroy us. We survived those attempts, but we realized that open technological superiority would only lead to constant warfare. So we chose a different path. Marcus manipulated his device again, and the display showed a complex web of relationships spanning the galaxy. Every major conflict in the past century has been influenced by human intervention. Trade wars that could have become shooting conflicts, territorial disputes that were resolved through negotiation rather than violence, technological discoveries that were shared rather than hoarded, all of it carefully orchestrated to build a galaxy more capable of unified action. You've been manipulating us all, Zara said, though there was more wonder than anger in her voice. We've been guiding events toward cooperation rather than destruction. And, now, with the Devourers returning, that cooperation is our only hope for survival. Suddenly, Marcus's communication device began emitting urgent signals. He activated the emergency channel and Admiral Thexron's face appeared, his expression showing barely controlled panic. Your Majesty, we need you in the command center immediately. The entities have accelerated their advance. They'll reach the outer colonies in 12 hours, not 48. Understood, Admiral. I'm on my way. Zara ended the transmission and turned to Marcus. I assume you have recommendations for our defense? I do. But they'll require you to trust me completely and to accept help from sources your people aren't ready to acknowledge. Marcus stood, and Zara saw that his entire demeanor had changed. The simple gardener was gone, replaced by someone with the bearing of a military commander. Can you do that? Zara studied his face for several long moments. Everything she thought she knew about her husband, about humans, about galactic civilization itself, had been shattered in the space of an hour. But the love in his eyes was real, and the threat approaching her empire was beyond anything her forces could handle alone. What do you need? She asked. First, I need to contact Human Command and request immediate tactical support. Second, I need you to authorize direct communication between human technical specialists and your fleet commanders. And, third. Marcus paused, knowing this would be the hardest request. I need you to trust that some of your most trusted advisors aren't who they appear to be either. What do you mean? I'm not the only human agent in your government, Zara. We have people positioned throughout your administration, your military, even your personal staff. They've been protecting you and gathering intelligence for years. The revelation hit her like another physical blow. Who? Commander Veltar is human. So is your personal physician, Dr. Nexera. 3 of your senior engineers in the technology division, 2 of your intelligence chiefs, and... Marcus hesitated. Who else? Your personal chef, Kara. She's been monitoring your nutrition and health to ensure no one attempts to poison you. She's also been one of our most valuable intelligence assets. Zara sat back down heavily on the stone bench. My entire life has been surrounded by human agents. Your entire life has been protected by human agents, Marcus corrected gently. We've prevented 4 assassination attempts, stopped 2 coups, and ensured that the technological advances your empire has made in recent years were shared with other civilizations rather than used for conquest. And now you're asking me to bet my empire's survival on trusting you completely. I'm asking you to bet the galaxy's survival on humanity's plan to unite our civilizations against an existential threat. Marcus knelt beside the bench, taking her hands again. Zara, I love you. I love the empire you've built, the peace you've maintained, the wisdom you show in ruling so many different species. But none of that matters if the Devourers consume everything we've created. Above them, more human ships were becoming visible as they dropped their cloaking fields. Dozens of vessels filled the night sky, their synchronized movements creating patterns of light that spoke to coordination and tactical capabilities far beyond what any galactic military possessed. This is what humanity really looks like, Marcus said, gesturing toward the ships. We're not the primitive farmers and merchants the galaxy believes us to be. We're the descendants of survivors who lived on one of the most dangerous worlds imaginable, who learned to adapt and overcome through intelligence and cooperation rather than raw power. Zara looked up at the ships, then back at the man she had married. The alien queen who ruled 12 star systems had fallen in love with a human gardener, never suspecting that she was actually allying herself with the most advanced and secretly influential civilization in the galaxy. If we do this, she said finally, if we reveal humanity's true nature and coordinate our forces, what happens to us afterward? What happens to our relationship? Marcus smiled, and, for the first time since arriving in the grove, he looked like the man she had fallen in love with. That depends on whether you can forgive me for the deception and whether you're willing to help build a galaxy where species work together instead of against each other. And if I can't? If I decide that this betrayal is too much to overcome? Then, I'll respect your decision and focus on saving your empire anyway. Because that's what love means, Zara, putting the other person's welfare ahead of your own desires. Queen Zarathul of the Vortak Empire stood and walked to the center of the grove, looking up at the human fleet that had been secretly protecting her world. When she turned back to Marcus, her expression held the resolve that had made her one of the most respected rulers in the galaxy. Call your people, she said. Tell them that the Vortak Empire is ready to ally with humanity against the Devourer threat. And, Marcus? Yes? We're going to have a very long conversation about honesty in relationships once this crisis is over. Marcus smiled and activated his communication device to contact Human Command. Above them, the hidden fleet began moving into defensive positions as the galaxy prepared to witness the true power of humanity for the first time in over a century. The masquerade was ending, but the real fight was just beginning. The Vortak Command Center had been transformed overnight into something resembling a nerve center for galactic civilization. Holographic displays showed the positions of fleets from 8 different empires, their ships taking defensive positions around critical systems under the coordination of human strategic specialists who had revealed themselves after more than a century of careful disguise. Marcus stood beside Queen Zara's command throne, no longer the humble gardener but wearing the uniform of a human integration fleet admiral. The transformation had shocked the Vortak command staff, but the crisis left no time for lengthy explanations. When massive entities from outside normal spacetime were consuming entire star systems, questions about identity could wait. Status report, Zara commanded, her voice carrying across the busy chamber. Commander Veltar, revealed to be Colonel Victoria Santos of the Human Intelligence Division, stepped forward. Her appearance had subtly changed as biological modifications that disguised her human features were temporarily suspended. Your Majesty, the Devourer advance has accelerated beyond our projections. They've consumed 3 outer rim systems in the past 6 hours. The main display updated to show the advancing threat. What the galaxy had initially mistaken for large ships were revealed to be something far more terrifying: living constructs the size of small moons, composed of dark matter and energy configurations that defied conventional physics. Each entity appears to be learning from what it consumes, reported Dr. Sarah Chen, Marcus's sister and director of human strategic operations. She had arrived aboard the flagship Prometheus, a vessel whose technology made even the most advanced alien dreadnoughts seem primitive by comparison. They're not just feeding, they're incorporating the knowledge and capabilities of everything they absorb. Which means they're becoming more dangerous with each system they consume, Marcus added grimly. The pattern matches historical records from the last Devourer War. They study their prey, adapt to overcome defenses, then move on to larger targets. Admiral Fexron, the grizzled Vortak fleet commander, studied the tactical displays with growing unease. Our combined fleets represent the largest military force ever assembled in this galaxy. Are you telling us it won't be enough? Not using conventional tactics, Sarah replied. The Devourers exist partially outside normal spacetime. Energy weapons pass through them unless precisely calibrated to their quantum signature. Physical projectiles are simply absorbed and converted into more of their mass. Then, how do we fight them? Lord Kethvar demanded. The Vortak noble had been unusually quiet since learning that several of his most trusted advisors were human agents, but the immediate crisis forced cooperation despite his wounded pride. Marcus activated a section of the display showing technical schematics that made the assembled aliens exchange concerned glances. We fight them with technology that most of your civilizations haven't developed yet, coordinated through tactical principles that require absolute trust between species that have been suspicious of each other for millennia. The display showed weapon configurations that combined Krell energy manipulation with Zephyrian temporal mechanics and Vortak matter transformation, all powered by human quantum engineering that existed decades ahead of anything else in the galaxy. This is what humanity has been preparing for the past century, Sarah explained. We've studied every species' technological advantages and learned to combine them in ways that create emergent capabilities. The result is a defensive system that can adapt faster than the Devourers can evolve. But it requires complete integration of command structures, Marcus added, knowing this would be the most difficult requirement. No individual empire can coordinate fast enough to match Devourer adaptation. We need a unified command structure with real-time tactical coordination across all fleets. The silence that followed was tense. What Marcus was proposing went against centuries of galactic political tradition. Empires didn't subordinate their military forces to other species, regardless of the threat. It was Queen Zara who broke the silence. I hereby place all Vortak Empire military forces under unified command for the duration of this crisis. Her silver eyes fixed on Marcus. I'm trusting you with the lives of billions of my subjects, Admiral Chen. The formal use of his real name and rank sent murmurs through the chamber. Other alien commanders looked to their own leaders, waiting for decisions that would reshape galactic politics. Emperor Krell Thane of the Krell hegemony was the next to speak, his massive form dominating the holographic display from his flagship. The hegemony will contribute our forces to this unified command. But we want guarantees about post-crisis political arrangements. With respect, Your Majesty, Sarah interjected, there won't be any post-crisis political arrangements unless we survive the next 48 hours. The Devourers have accelerated their timeline. Our deep space monitors detect a massive convergence occurring in the galactic core. They're not just feeding randomly, they're building toward something. The display shifted to show long-range sensor data that made everyone in the command center fall silent. Hundreds of Devourer entities were moving toward the densely populated core systems, their combined mass representing a threat beyond anything the galaxy had faced in recorded history. They're targeting the capital worlds, Admiral Fexron breathed. Vortak Prime, Krell Major, Zephyr Central, every major seat of government. It's worse than that, Marcus said, his expression grim. They're targeting the treaty worlds, the systems where our species first established diplomatic contact. They know that destroying those systems will cripple our ability to coordinate. How could they possibly know our political structure? Lord Kethvar demanded. Because they're learning from everything they consume, Sarah replied. Every computer database, every individual's memories, every piece of technology they absorb gives them more knowledge about our weaknesses. The implications struck the assembled leaders like a physical blow. The Devourers weren't just consuming matter and energy, they were conducting psychological warfare on a galactic scale. So what do we do? Empress Zaithara of the Zephyrian Collective asked. Her crystalline form shimmered with anxiety as temporal fluctuations rippled around her. How do we fight an enemy that learns from every victory? Marcus exchanged a look with his sister before answering. We do something the galaxy has never attempted before. We create a tactical network that links every ship, every commander, every weapon system into a single coordinated entity. Human quantum communication technology can establish instantaneous connections across any distance. You're talking about linking alien minds to human technology, Lord Kethvar protested. The security implications alone are irrelevant if we don't survive, Queen Zara cut him off. Admiral Chen, what do you need? Every ship will need to install human communication nodes and allow our specialists to interface directly with their tactical systems. It means trusting humanity with access to your most sensitive military technology. And, in return? Emperor Krelthane asked. In return, you'll see exactly what human technology is capable of when it's not hidden behind careful disguises, Sarah replied. We're offering to share advancements that are centuries ahead of your current capabilities. The chamber fell silent as the galactic leaders considered the proposal. They were being asked to trust a species they had considered primitive with their most vital secrets, in exchange for access to technology that could revolutionize their civilizations. It was Empress Zaithara who spoke first. The collective agrees to full integration. Our temporal manipulation abilities could provide significant advantages in coordination. Emperor Krelthane's massive form shifted as he considered the decision. The hegemony will contribute our energy manipulation technology to this network. But, we want detailed technical specifications of any human technology we integrate. Agreed, Sarah replied without hesitation. This crisis changes everything anyway. The age of hidden capabilities is ending. One by one, the other galactic leaders committed their forces to the unified command structure. Within hours, human technical teams were boarding alien vessels throughout the galaxy, installing quantum communication nodes and integrating weapons systems in ways that had never been attempted. But, even as the unprecedented cooperation took shape, reports continued arriving from the front lines. The Devourers had consumed 2 more inhabited systems, and their advance toward the core worlds was accelerating. Estimated time to Vorthak Prime? Zara asked. 26 hours, Admiral Thexron replied. Maybe less if they continue accelerating. Marcus studied the tactical displays, his mind working through possibilities and probabilities at superhuman speed, enhanced by neural implants that represented the pinnacle of human cognitive augmentation. We're not going to stop them with defensive measures, he announced. The Devourers are too numerous and too adaptive. We need to force them into a situation where their ability to learn and adapt becomes a disadvantage. How? Sarah asked. We make them fight us on our terms, in an environment where adaptation takes time they don't have. Marcus highlighted a section of space near the galactic core. The Nexus Nebula. It's a region where spacetime is naturally unstable due to intersecting gravity wells from 3 different black holes. That's suicide, Admiral Thexron protested. No ship can operate effectively in that environment. No conventional ship, Marcus corrected. But, human vessels are designed to operate in impossible environments. And, if we can lure the Devourers into the Nexus, the spacetime distortions will interfere with their ability to coordinate and adapt. You're talking about using the entire combined fleet as bait, Lord Kethvar said, his voice filled with disbelief. I'm talking about using the combined fleet as a weapon, Marcus replied. We go into the Nexus, establish a defensive formation that forces the Devourers to approach us through the most unstable regions, then hit them with everything we have while they're struggling to adapt to an environment that's constantly changing. The plan was audacious beyond anything attempted in galactic military history. It required precision coordination between species that had been enemies for generations, using technology that most commanders didn't fully understand, in an environment that could destroy them as easily as their enemies. It's insane, Emperor Krelthane declared. And, it might be our only chance. Queen Zara looked around the command center, seeing alien officers working alongside humans who had hidden among their civilizations for decades, all united by a threat that dwarfed their historical conflicts. Admiral Chen, she said formally, you have authorization to proceed with your plan. All Vorthak forces will follow your commands. Acknowledged, Marcus replied. All fleet commanders, begin moving your vessels toward Rally Point Alpha.
We're going to show the Devourers what happens when they underestimate the determination of a united galaxy.
As the massive combined fleet began moving toward the Nexus Nebula, Marcus felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. The masquerade that had protected humanity for over a century was ending, but something new was beginning, a galactic civilization built on cooperation rather than conquest, trust rather than fear. If they survived the next 24 hours. The bridge of the Prometheus hummed with activity as human officers coordinated with their alien counterparts through quantum-linked communication systems. For the first time in galactic history, minds from dozens of species were working in perfect synchronization, their combined intelligence creating tactical possibilities that no individual civilization could have imagined. Devourer formations detected approaching the Nexus boundary, reported Commander Santos.
They're taking the bait.
Marcus smiled grimly as he watched the tactical display update.
Then, let's give them a welcome they'll never forget. All fleets, implement Formation Omega.
It's time to show these ancient predators what evolution looks like when an entire galaxy learns to work together. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and, for the first time since the crisis started, Marcus allowed himself to hope that love and trust might prove stronger than hunger and ancient malice. The Nexus Nebula stretched across space like a wound in reality itself, its swirling gases illuminated by the twisted light of three black holes whose gravitational forces created pockets of accelerated time and compressed space. No conventional fleet had ever attempted to operate in such an environment, but the combined armada now taking position among the deadly currents was far from conventional.
Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the tactical display as thousands of ships from across the galaxy moved into formation.
Vorthack vessels with their crystalline hulls gleaming in the nebula's strange light.
Krell dreadnoughts bristling with energy weapons that could reshape matter at the molecular level.
Zephyrian ships that phased in and out of normal time, their crews manipulating temporal flows to coordinate impossible maneuvers. And human vessels whose sleek profiles concealed technology that represented the synthesis of every galactic civilization's greatest achievements. All fleet elements report ready for Formation Omega, Commander Santos announced. Her voice carried across the quantum communication network, reaching every ship in the armada simultaneously. The integration was so complete that commanders throughout the fleet felt as though they were sharing the same bridge, the same tactical awareness, the same determination. Queen Zara stood beside Marcus, her forearms steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. Through the viewing ports, they could see the approaching darkness, hundreds of devourer entities emerging from hyperspace like living nightmares. Each one was the size of a small moon, their surfaces rippling with absorbed matter and energy stolen from consumed worlds. They're magnificent in their horror, Zara said quietly.
I can see why ancient civilizations feared them so much.
Fear is exactly what they count on, Marcus replied. But fear alone has never stopped humanity from doing what needs to be done.
The lead devourer entity pulsed with dark energy as it entered the nebula's outer boundary. Immediately, the space-time distortions began affecting its structure.
The carefully maintained quantum coherence that held its form stable started fluctuating as gravitational tides from the black holes interfered with its ability to process absorbed matter. They're slowing down, reported Admiral Thexron from his flagship.
The nebula environment is disrupting their normal coordination patterns.
Perfect, Sarah Chen's voice came through the network from her position aboard the technical coordination vessel.
All units, implement Phase 1. Show them what they're really facing. Across the armada, human-designed cloaking fields deactivated simultaneously.
Ships that the Devourers had calculated as manageable threats suddenly revealed their true capabilities.
Weapon systems powered by crystallized dark energy came online.
Shields that bent spacetime itself created defensive barriers that existed partially outside normal reality.
And, most shocking of all, the combined fleet began moving as a single organism, every vessel's actions perfectly coordinated through quantum-linked consciousness networks.
The Devourer's response was immediate and terrifying. The lead entity's surface erupted with tendrils of pure entropy, reaching out to drain energy from the nearest ships. But the attack struck barriers that shouldn't exist, shields that redirected entropic force back on itself, creating feedback loops that actually strengthened the defending vessels. First contact successful, Marcus announced. They're learning that conventional energy drain tactics don't work against our defenses.
Initiating Phase 2. The Vorthack contingent led the opening assault, their matter transformation weapons reconfiguring space itself around the Devourer entities.
Instead of trying to destroy the ancient beings directly, they altered the quantum substrate that the creatures used for stability. The effect was immediate. Several devourer entities began losing coherence as their fundamental structure was forced to adapt to constantly changing environmental parameters. Brilliant, Emperor Krellthane's voice carried awe as he watched the results. You're forcing them to waste energy on adaptation instead of attack. And, we're just getting started, Marcus replied. Zephyrian forces implement temporal disruption pattern. Empress Zaethara's crystalline fleet phased into action, their ships manipulating local time flow to create pockets of accelerated and decelerated temporal zones throughout the battlefield. The Devourers found themselves trapped in regions where their reaction times were slowed while their opponents moved at impossible speeds. But, the ancient entities were learning. Marcus watched with growing concern as they began adapting to each new tactic within minutes of its implementation. Entropy tendrils evolved to bypass matter transformation effects. Quantum coherence patterns shifted to resist temporal manipulation. The Devourers were doing exactly what they had always done, consuming knowledge and using it to become more dangerous. They're adapting faster than our projections indicated, Sarah reported. At this rate, they'll overcome our tactical advantages within the hour. Marcus nodded grimly. He had expected this moment, planned for it even, but that didn't make the next decision easier. All fleet commanders, prepare for final phase implementation. We're going to show them something they've never encountered before. What's that? Zara asked. A species that adapts faster than they do. Marcus activated a command sequence that he had hoped never to use. Throughout the human fleet, emergency protocols engaged. Quantum barriers that had hidden humanity's most advanced technology dissolved, revealing the true extent of what they had achieved during their century of careful preparation. The human ships began transforming. Hulls flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring themselves in real time to match changing tactical requirements. Weapon systems shifted between energy types faster than sensors could track. And, most dramatically of all, the ships themselves began dividing, each vessel splitting into multiple smaller units that operated with perfect coordination. Adaptive morphic technology, Marcus explained as the alien commanders stared in amazement. Every human ship is actually a collective of semi-autonomous units that can reconfigure themselves for any tactical situation. We learned the principle from studying captured Devourer fragments 50,000 years ago. The battle transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. As fast as the Devourers adapted to new attacks, the human fleet evolved new configurations to match them. Weapon systems that had never existed before materialized in seconds. Defensive strategies that violated conventional physics protected ships while they underwent impossible transformations. But, the most remarkable change wasn't in technology, it was in the alien crews. Through the quantum-linked communication network, they found themselves thinking with unprecedented clarity and coordination. Krell energy manipulation techniques merged seamlessly with Zephyrian temporal mechanics. Vortex matter transformation principles combined with human adaptive engineering to create effects that none of their species could have achieved alone. This is what we were meant to become, Zara said, her voice filled with wonder as she felt her consciousness expand beyond individual limitations. Not separate species competing for resources, but a collective intelligence capable of solving any challenge. The Devourers sensed the change and responded with desperate fury. Their attacks intensified, entropy fields reaching out to consume not just matter and energy but the very concept of organized thought. Several alien vessels were caught by the expanding darkness, their crews screaming as their minds were absorbed into the collective hunger. They're targeting the consciousness network, Sarah reported urgently. If they break our coordination, we'll lose everything. Marcus felt the weight of command like a physical force. Every decision in the next few minutes would determine whether galactic civilization survived or joined the countless worlds already consumed by ancient hunger. All units, implement Protocol Omega-7, he commanded. Full quantum entanglement with human consciousness networks. Warning, this will create permanent changes in neural structure for all participating species. What kind of changes? Emperor Krellthane demanded. The kind that will make your civilizations capable of things you never imagined possible, Marcus replied. But, once we do this, there's no going back. Your species will be permanently altered. The silence that followed was brief but profound. Every alien commander understood that they were being asked to sacrifice their species' pure genetic heritage for the chance to save their civilizations. Queen Zara was the first to respond. The Vorthak Empire authorizes Protocol Omega-7.
Do it. The Krell hegemony agrees, Emperor Krellthane declared.
The Zephyrian Collective accepts the permanent changes, Empress Zaethra added. One by one, every allied species committed to the irreversible transformation. As the authorization codes were confirmed, the quantum consciousness network expanded exponentially. Alien minds merged with human neural enhancement technology, creating hybrid intelligences that combined the best aspects of every participating species. The effect on the battle was immediate and overwhelming. The combined fleet began moving with coordination that transcended individual thought, each ship anticipating the other's actions before decisions were even made. Weapon systems evolved in real time, creating new forms of energy that the Devourers had never encountered. Most importantly, the fleet began displaying the one capability that the ancient entities could never match: creativity born from cooperation rather than consumption.
They're retreating, Admiral Thexron reported with amazement in his voice. The Devourers are actually pulling back. But Marcus could see the truth in the tactical displays. No, they're not retreating. They're trying to escape. We've shown them something they can't: adapt to a form of evolution that doesn't require destroying others. The largest Devourer entity pulsed with frustrated hunger as it attempted to withdraw from the battle. For 50,000 years, it had consumed civilizations by learning their strengths and turning them into weaknesses. But, faced with an enemy that grew stronger through cooperation rather than conquest, it had no framework for adaptation. Should we pursue them? Sarah asked. No, Marcus decided. Let them go. They'll spread word throughout whatever network connects their kind. The galaxy now has a defense they can't overcome: unity instead of competition.
As the Devourer entities fled toward the galactic rim, the combined fleet maintained formation in the strange beauty of the Nexus Nebula. But the real transformation was just beginning. Through the consciousness network, the surviving crews could feel changes taking place in their minds: new neural pathways opening, new forms of thought becoming possible.
What have we become? Zara asked, her silver eyes reflecting depths of understanding that hadn't existed moments before.
Something new, Marcus replied. Something that no single species could have achieved alone. He took her hands, feeling the quantum resonance that now connected their thoughts. We become what humanity always hoped the galaxy could be: not separate civilizations competing for survival, but a single people working toward common goals. In the days that followed, as the combined fleet returned to their home systems, the magnitude of the transformation became clear. The consciousness network had created permanent links between previously isolated species. Trade barriers dissolved as economic cooperation replaced competition. Scientific discoveries were shared instantaneously across the galaxy. Cultural exchange flourished as minds that had been alien to each other found common ground in shared experience. The Devourer crisis had forced the galaxy's first true cooperation, but the result was something far greater than a military alliance. It was the birth of a truly galactic civilization. Marcus and Zara stood once again in their hidden grove on Vorthak Prime, but the garden had been transformed. Flowers from dozens of worlds now grew side by side, their different forms of beauty creating patterns that no single species would have imagined. Above them, ships from across the galaxy moved in peaceful coordination, their crews working together on projects that would have been impossible before the consciousness network.
Do you regret it? Marcus asked. Learning that your husband was never the simple man you thought he was?
Zara smiled, her expression holding depths of affection enhanced by their new quantum connection.
I regret the deception that was necessary.
But I don't regret falling in love with a man whose greatest secret was that he belonged to a species wise enough to hide their strength until the galaxy needed it most.
And now?
Now we build something better than any of our civilizations could have achieved alone. She looked up at the ships moving across the twilight sky. We build a future where strength comes from cooperation, where diversity creates resilience, and where love conquers ancient hunger. Marcus kissed her gently, feeling the quantum resonance of their joined thoughts. The masquerade was over, the deception ended, but what had begun as a political marriage built on lies had become something true and lasting. In the distance, a new ship approached Vorthak Prime, a vessel designed and built cooperatively by all the galaxy's species, incorporating the best of everyone's technology and wisdom. It was the first of many such ships, symbols of a civilization that had learned to adapt not through consumption but through collaboration. The humble gardener and the alien queen watched their new world taking shape, knowing that they had helped plant seeds that would grow into something magnificent. The galaxy had awakened to its true potential, and the future stretched before them filled with infinite possibilities. Somewhere in the depths of space, the surviving devourers fled toward other galaxies, carrying with them a new understanding of what civilized species could become when they chose cooperation over conquest. For the first time in their ancient existence, they had encountered prey that had become predator not through violence, but through the simple revolutionary act of working together. The age of hidden strength was over. The age of shared wisdom had begun.